It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are your podcast for relatable conversations with contractors and maybe a little bit of entertainment for you as well. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Hello, everyone.
We are episode 44 today. With us today, we've got the president, chairman, co-founder of ENTEKRA, Gerry McCaughey.
Hi, guys.
Did I do it right?
You did.
You got it right this time. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, we were on a little bit. I had a little lesson in Gaelic Irish pronunciation.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's get started. Kind of let us know. We'd love to know kind of how you got started in this industry, and in the road to where you are now with ENTEKRA.
Well, actually, how I got involved in this industry goes back pretty much as long as I live, because I got into it because of my dad. Because my dad was a carpenter by trade, and in his younger days, in his 20s, he emigrated from a little small town in Ireland to the big city of New York, which was in the late 50s. And he was a finished carpenter and a roofer, believe it or not. That's the two combinations he had. He was a finished carpenter and a roofer. And when he went to New York, he basically took any job he could. He was a taxi driver, he was a bellhop, he was a maintenance man, but he was always trying to get onto the building sites. But he had to get his union card, and eventually he got it. And so he went to work on the sites in New York, and that's where he first discovered wood framing as a method of construction. Because prior to that, at his time, all homes in Ireland and the UK were all built out of concrete block. So
wow.
He goes to New York in his early 20s, discovers this wood framing for building homes. He'd only ever heard of it for putting a roof on a house or doing finished carpentry. And he came back to Ireland. A couple of years later, he decided this was a great idea. This would be a great idea to build houses in Ireland. And sometimes I say that sometimes what you don't know is the best thing, because if you knew all the things that were ahead of you, you probably wouldn't do them. But he came back somewhat naively and said, I'm going to do this. But the funny thing about it was, and maybe this is how this whole conversation will come around, his European mentality, even though he was only 20-something years old, was, well, why would I do this out in a building site when I can do it in a factory? So he went and rented a small little building, say in a small town in Ireland, and became literally, I say he didn't just start a business, he actually started an industry.
Yeah. That
industry was the offsite industry in Ireland, doing wood frame houses. And he started out of a tiny little building. And by 1985, that company had literally spawned an industry, and he was running the largest company in it. And he had about 300 or 400 employees, and he was doing about 500 houses a year. Now, remember, Ireland at that point in time was only building about 19,000 houses total, and he was doing about 500 of them. Although, actually, he did ship some houses to Saudi Arabia for the U.S. Army.
Wow.
He built officers' quarters, and actually physically went over himself to Saudi Arabia on a Saudi Aramco site, and actually built officers' quarters by shipping the off-site components from Ireland to Saudi Arabia.
So let me pause you real quick. You're telling me that your dad started the first, was there any other known off-site construction being done in any other country anywhere that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Wow. That's impressive. That's awesome.
But I can categorically say it in Ireland, he was number one. He started in
so cool. It's So go ahead. I'd love to. Yeah, obviously we want to hear the rest of the story. So
in 1985, I had just left. I was actually in college. I was in university, and because I had grown up not understanding there was any other way to build a wood frame house except using offsite methodology, that's what was normal to me.
Yeah.
But I had realized that in Ireland, it wasn't the normal way to build homes, because the normal way to build them was out of concrete blocks. So I was doing a business degree in University College Dublin, and I had to write a number of reports, and I had to actually do a group thesis for my marketing. I specialized in marketing, and I decided to pick the offsite industry as the topic because I knew it was unusual, and yet I had access to all of this information from the man who had actually built created an industry. I said, okay, let's do this. So I did that for my degree, wrote this report. As it turned out, myself and my three other colleagues got first in our class. And anyway, that was that. Believe it or not, I went off to live in California. I was 24 years of age and decided I want to see a little bit of the world. Off I went, said I'll spend 6 months in the States, just like my dad had done when he was younger too, and said, okay, I'll go do this. I got to California and 6 months became 4 years. And when you leave a rainy grey Ireland and you go to the sunny shores of California and you get to the beach cities and you see everything that's around you, and I'm not going to too much.
Yeah, I was going to say. In your early 20s, I know what you're.
The Beach Boys wrote a song about it. So
hard to leave, I imagine.
It was very hard. But actually, what happened was, I got a phone call. My dad then subsequently sold out of the business in 1988, and I got a phone call from him saying one day, literally saying to me, "Do you remember that report you wrote when you were in college?" And I'm going, report college? That's not even on my radar at the moment. I said, I have a vague recollection that I did write something about the offsite industry. And he said to me, did you think it was true? And I said, I think it was true. I can't even really remember it.
Once again, vague recollection.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this. All I can say is I never thought at any point in time when I was writing it when I was in college, that I was writing anything that was false. So, I mean, as naive as I was at the time when I was writing it, I believed what I was writing.
Right.
And I'll never forget his expression was, he said to me, he said, I'll tell you what, why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Come back here and let's have a go at this. And literally, that was December. I got on a plane on December the 3rd, 1989, and I flew back to Ireland. And myself and my dad and my brother and another gentleman, Jim McBride, started a company in Ireland called Century Homes out of a 5,000 square foot building to do offsite construction, to compete against the company that he had previously set up, that was the dominant player in the market. And 15 years later, we were the largest offsite company in Europe. Was
he just bored? Why start over and try and compete against them?
He was bored. He got bored, and I think maybe somebody back there in that company peed him off a little bit.
Yeah.
And the Irish have a sort of they talk about Irish Alzheimer's, is that we can forget everything except the grudges. So he decided to have a go at it again along with myself, and I suppose there he was with the man with all of this massive amount of experience and knowledge, and his naive son who thought he knew everything about marketing, and said, put the two of us got together, and along with Jim and my brother Gary. And literally it took off. In 2005, we had 5 factories, 3 in Ireland, 2 in the UK. We were exporting as far away as Japan. We were doing somewhere close to 8,000 houses a year. And we had done the world's first 6-story wood frame building. We'd done the UK's first zero carbon home. I mean, we literally pushed the boundaries of energy efficiency and structural engineering with that company. And then, lo and behold, that company, we sold it in 2005 to Kingspan, which was a stock market quoted company in Britain and Ireland that has, this is crazy, but our new factory is literally about 400 yards away from one of Kingspan's facilities here in the United States. Don't ask me. So we sold to them, and that I stayed on then for until 2008 as CEO, and then decided, okay, it was time for me to go do something else. And at that point in time, the construction industry, both in Ireland and the United States, was in free fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was in the middle of a recession. But as it turned out, I moved to the United States again in 2008. Nothing to do with construction, but because on my bucket list, I wanted to become a helicopter pilot. I had just all of my life was fascinated by helicopters, wanted to learn how to fly one, turned around one day to my wife and said, let's go to California. I'm going to learn to fly this helicopter, tick that box, and then we'll go back to Ireland and decide what we're going to do. And we got on a plane, myself, my wife, and my 8-month-old daughter at the time, and our dog. We took the dog with us, rented a house in Manhattan Beach in California. I was there about 6 weeks. My wife turned around to me and said, I'm not going back. but I said to her, what do you mean you're not going?
Good thing you brought the dog.
I said, what do you mean you're not going back? Because I thought she meant she wasn't going back to a spin class. I didn't know she wasn't coming back to her home country. I remember saying to her, well, that's interesting. I said, you have heard the expression illegal alien. That's exactly what you'll be. And her answer back to me was, no, you'll figure that one out. I'm not going back. And lo and behold, just one of those things that turned out that way, and life changed on a dime, to use an American expression. And 12 years later, we were U.S. citizens. And during that period of time, when I was here, I was watching the construction industry all of the time, and I was doing some consultancy for people in, you're going to call the modular stroke offsite industry, but it became very clear to me that there was a real lack of understanding of what offsite was, and there was a massive opportunity. However, we were in a recession. And so I wasn't going to get into something where...
Yeah, I was going to say, not the best climate to start something new.
No, so what I did was just kept an eye on it the whole time until I felt it was the right time or the market was on the turn. And then I went back to some of my old colleagues in Century Homes and to my colleague here, Bram Kyo, who's my co-founder in this. And I said, listen, what do you think? We give this a shot in the US? I spoke to a number of my old colleagues that I'd worked with and said, I'm thinking of doing this. Would you join me if I did it? And crazy enough, a whole bunch of them said, yes, we'll give it a shot. And so we went out and we did the research, and we did the market research. We looked around and said, where are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? Where are we going to put it? So forth and so on. And then one day we pulled the trigger, and a bunch of the guys that used to work with me came to join us. And we started up in Northern California. And here we are.
So how long has ENTEKRA been in business?
It's been active in business just under 3 years.
Okay. And so you guys are 100% offsite fabrication. That's, you guys just do the fabrication.
There's a whole other discussion you could get into here. There's a distinct lack of understanding in the United States as to what offsite construction is.
So it's so funny you bring that up. Kind of, I want you to go into it, but we literally just talked to a guy earlier today who is with California Truss Frame. And one of the things, and it's so funny, so random, right? I mean, we've been talking to a lot of contractors and then have recently been opening it up to, some suppliers like yourself or, someone, just anybody in the construction space, just to try and get more of a knowledge base. But just random that the two of you guys are back to back. But he was saying, one of the things he said was that it's crazy how far behind the U.S. and even California is in the offsite construction relative to the rest of the world. And I mean, your story literally just illustrates that point. Mm-hmm. But he said that there's so much misunderstanding about it and how it operates and just
California just behind.
Yeah. So yes, please go into.
That's what it is, and there is, and part of what happens is you get companies that call themselves component manufacturers, and all of a sudden now, and I think a lot of it's got to do with us because we've really pushed the term offsite as the expression to differentiate ourselves. Even if you look at our name. Or the brand that we have, FIOS, the fully integrated offsite solution. We had to come up with that because we kept being thrown into the same category as component manufacturers. And one of the things that I say is, and this is where it gets pretty base, and where there is a distinct lack of understanding. And again, I don't mean this disparagingly, but it's just a fact of life. A lack of education and a lack of understanding, a lack of worldview. A lack of width in knowing what's actually out there. America is a very inward-looking country in many ways, and
100%, yeah.
The not invented here syndrome is very common, and so I'm going to jump around, and I know we're going to not have enough time for this, but I just jump to give you a parallel correlation to this. In the late 50s and early 60s. There was a very famous man in the United States called Deming, who went to the United States car industry and said, guys, you've got a problem. And Detroit said to him, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. We're the leading car manufacturers in the world. We know more than anybody else. And so Deming went to Japan and he said to the Japanese, I can teach you to build cars better. by using better processes. And the Japanese embraced them. And then lo and behold, Detroit went through nearly 2 decades where they were nearly crucified by the Japanese because the Japanese car companies applied the business processes of an American to their system, while the arrogance of the US car industry was, no, we know better than everybody else. And that's what the construction industry here, in terms of offsite, vis-a-vis component manufacturers, is like. There's an arrogance here in the US market that says, no, we know how to do this. We've been doing this. And the reality is they haven't been doing it and they don't know what it's about. Most what's broadly called offsite construction here in the US is nothing more than a process or a system that's been taken from a building site and put under a roof.
Right.
And all they've done is actually put up their costs because they don't go into manufacturing techniques or lean processes at all. They just set up a table and they give 2 guys a nail gun and away they go. And they think that's offsite construction. And there's no integration. There's no improvement of the process. There's no care or understanding that it's about the whole building. Because by definition, think about this now. By definition, the word component means an element, a piece. But we're a system. And that's the difference. That's the if you want to sum it up in one line, there's the major difference. If you call yourself a component manufacturer and you think you're an offsite, you're crazy. Because offsite is about a system. It's not about an element. In fact, we would say that 80% of the value that we provide to our customers comes before we ever cut a stick of timber. So we're not focused on the component or the element. We're focused on the process. Offsite is about the process. It's about process improvement. It's not about the component. And I can't be any clearer than that. So when you hear guys thinking it's about that, so if you come to talk to us in our factory, we're going to spend hours talking about the process. Hours, maybe days and weeks at it. We have 50 engineers in Ireland at the moment. So our engineering is carried out in Ireland because that's where I have the knowledge and experience of the crew, the people that I used to work with.
Yep.
Right.
And they're the most experienced literally people in the world doing what they're doing, given the track record that they have. But it's all about that process. It's not about sticking nails in a piece of timber in a factory environment. But when you do go to that point about it, it's no point doing the exact same thing under that roof that you're doing on the building site. You need to do something different. And it's just a sort of
innovative and pushing the boundaries and
so far behind here, it's incredible. So that's what and some people call it, we're bringing a European offsite approach to the industry. And I also like the expression that Aristotle said, some 2,000 years ago, Aristotle, very wise man, I think, never met the man, but anyway, apparently or allegedly, he said, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Now, think about that in the context of people who are component manufacturers, manufacturing a component that's offsite. Even if they say it is manufactured offsite, but it's a component. In other words, if Aristotle would have said is the system is greater than the components. And builders only get the benefit from offsite construction by using a system. And part of the reason why up to now, why there hasn't been as big a swing towards offsite construction in the United States, I believe, is because of that. Because you have people going around trying to convince the builder that offsite construction is about buying components. The builder then buys the components, but he doesn't get the benefit that he thinks he was going to get. And he says to himself, I've tried that, it doesn't work. That's not the experience we have with our system, either in Europe or now in the United States. When you get a builder who understands that it's about a systematic improvement in the process, he gets the benefits. Now, at the very beginning, those benefits can be painfully gained because you're asking him to change a way he's been doing business for maybe 20, 30 years. But once he sees through it and he changes the way he approaches things himself, there's no way he's going back to doing what he's been doing previously.
Oh yeah, I have to imagine the headaches that go away and the streamline that you create for a contractor or a building owner or a home builder or something like that is night and day difference.
Yeah,
So
I mean, not even to get back to the point. I mean, again, I don't really like to focus on the manufacturing side of it. Although we have the most advanced and automated manufacturing facility in North America. I mean, it's direct CAD/CAM. We're taking a 3D model of that building produced in Ireland, and it's sent directly through our manufacturing software to the machinery in the factory. There's basically no tape measures in our manufacturing facility.
that's crazy.
Everything is sent
And you guys are doing everything, right? Like when you, so a home, a building, whatever, like you're doing everything from floor panels, walls, roof, truss, ceilings, all of it.
Correct.
Okay. Wow. That's insane.
So, and it's all, everything's part number. There's no need for tape measure because it's all central CNC equipment.
Yeah.
The equipment then produces the part for it. All the operator does is stand there to make sure the machine keeps operating. It picks up the piece of lumber that it wants, brings it in, cuts it, produces a label. You put the label on it, then that's brought over to the point where the next stage of manufacturing takes place.
So how much of the pre-construction are you guys actually doing inside your facility?
We in terms of we prefabricate the floors, we prefabricate the walls, we have the roof trusses made, we'll do whatever variation of floor panels you want, whether you want a space joist, whether you want I-joist, whether you want dimensioned lumber. We're as flexible in terms of that side of it because we're agnostic to materials in many ways. We're about the process. So if a builder has a particular material that he wants to use, what we do is we look about how do we fit that in and make the process as efficient as possible.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the education process, because I have to imagine you guys spend quite a bit of time with builders or contractors or whatever that are interested, kind of educating me into this process. How receptive are they? What does that process look like?
Well, I mean, yeah, we do. We spend a lot of time on it. And I mean, again, my background is marketing. So the one thing that I sort of realized many years ago was there's no point banging your head against the wall of the person who doesn't want to listen. Mm-hmm. Right? So we spend a lot of time figuring out who's worth talking to and who's not worth talking to. And to put that in simple terms, the marketing curve will tell you that 2.25% of the industry are innovators for whatever product. You bring a new product to market, there's only 2.25% of the population who are going to listen to you on day one. So
that's got to be frustrating. That's a frustrating realization.
It is and it isn't. I mean, it's because you know. Correct. It's when you don't know. The problem is when you get people out there and they think, I've got a population of 100. I'm going to talk to all 100 of them, but you realize that you could be talking to 98 of them and you're never going to get through the door. What you need to do is find out who the 2.25% are. So that's where we focus on, is trying to find it in the industry. Who are the real innovators? Now, you can say it's hard to find, but it's actually not that hard to find because the innovators themselves,
they're looking for you.
They're looking for you. Looking for you, and they tend to be obvious because they've already done something innovative in the first place.
Right.
So you know what I mean? So you sort of look for the group of the people that are visibly innovative themselves and focus on them, not on the people who haven't changed in 100 years.
Right. Because
they will be the last, they'll be known as the laggards. They'll be the last to come in and adopt the system. So there's no point. So you have the early adopters, you have the innovators, and then you have the early adopters, which are about 12.5% of the market. So that's the area we're focused on at the moment, is in that area. So if you take it, it's really about 15% of the market where we're targeting with our product at the moment. So it's those we have to educate. And again, those people tend to be more tech savvy. They tend to be the people who are going out looking at podcasts like yours. That's why, I'm delighted and honored to be on it. But why people why we put up so much content on LinkedIn and on YouTube, because we know that the innovators are out there looking. You said it yourself. The innovators tend to be out looking. Yeah. So you try to make yourself as visible as possible for them to find, as well as you finding them. So. Wow.
Yeah. So what does your customer base look like? I mean, who are you? What kind of work are you doing most often, as far as single family homes? Or
when we're doing everything from single family to multifamily to, we have hotel projects here that are running through the system at the moment.
Wow.
But we will look at anything that's wood frame. Again, we're agnostic to the type of building as well. We see ourselves as pretty much as an engineering firm. So it doesn't matter to us whether it's a single family building or it's an institutional building or it's a hospital or it's an office block or it's an apartment block or condos. It's about the process. And if we feel that building fits inside our process, then we are interested in doing it. But we don't limit ourselves. And again, that's an important point in terms of people who have tried offsite construction before in the United States. And I know there'll be some people in my company here saying I shouldn't be telling the market this, but the reality is a lot of them have failed before. They had great intentions and they put a lot of money into the ground, and they failed because their business plan didn't stack up. And what I mean by that is, if you think that you can go and invest 30, 40 million in a factory and say to yourself, I'm only going to do single family homes, well, then you are at the whim of the market, depending on what happens.
Right.
So when you say you're an offsite company, again, you don't say you're an offsite homes company. You're an offsite construction manufacturing company that will basically do any building that's in wood frame. Or if you want it, we also did steel, like it's steel in Europe as well. So again, agnostic to the material, it's about the process and the system. But if you have to be able to broaden out and go after all segments of the market, because that's how you stay viable through the ups and downs
right.
of the construction cycles.
So are you guys, is it just California that you guys are working in right now?
Currently, yes.
Yeah. But I would imagine there's plans to kind of replicate the factory elsewhere. And
absolutely. I mean, I'd say we're not probably too far away from that stage. I mean, our whole strategy was to get this factory up and running and get it stabilized, get the customer base ready, and then move to the next one. So we've been very focused on doing that. We're probably getting very close to that point now.
Wow, that's awesome. So I noticed you guys have a contractor's license. And I know you're probably going to be angry with me for comparing you to other, offsite manufacturers or something, but they kind of classify as manufacturing and not necessarily as construction, and therefore don't need the license. Is there a reason why?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I'll tell you why. And this was one of the problems that we faced when we came into the market. I mean, unlike Europe, in Europe, there are multiple companies like mine. There's an industry now, an offsite industry, and not a component industry, but a genuine offsite industry.
Right.
And how the industry operates in Europe is, if you're a builder or developer and you want to build offsite, what you do is you'll go out to bid to your 2 or 3 favorite offsite companies. Like my old company would have been Century Homes. You'd have gone off and got a bid off those, and you got a bid off a couple of other offsite companies for their package supplied. And then what you do is, when you get that package, when you get that quotation from them and you pick the offsite company that you're happy with, you then take that basic package, that specification, you take the price out of it, but then you send it off to your 3 or 4 favorite erecting crews. They're called framers here, but we call them erecting crews in Europe. And then they bid to put that system up. So the builder, there's a very clear delineation between the offsite company and the on-site labor.
Right.
That's what we were using. We would have basically had zero on-site labor in Europe. We were an engineering and manufacturing company.
Yeah.
Now, when we got to the US, we initially found a lot of resistance from the existing framers in the market, particularly on the West Coast, because the West Coast is a turnkey market where the labor controls the lumber. And they don't want, this is part of the difficulty you have in this market of disrupting it, is the stick framers don't want to let go of the lumber, because that's where they can get massive profit gains through the year by the way the lumber moves, because everything over here is on a 3-month lock. And when it moves, they don't care whether it moves up or down, they're still going to increase the amount of margin that they're taking. And so they don't want to give up the lumber, so they will resist using our system. And every time you go to a builder to quote using them, they will always make the stick framing prospect of it look cheaper than using offsite. So in the initial days, we said, well, how do we get around that? Because otherwise these guys will strangle us. We said, well, okay, well, let's get a contractor's license ourselves, and we'll put labor on the ground. If they don't want to play with us, they don't want to play in the same sandbox with us, then we'll go and get our own contractor's license, and we'll put labor on the market to put them up. But we're not going to get stopped. So that's why we did it. Now, as it turns out now, we don't use it. We have it, but we don't use it, because now some more of the enlightened framers have actually seen the benefits of our system and now realize that rather than it being cannibalistic to their existing business, it's actually incremental to their existing business. Because they're
you guys have more of an outreach, and I'm sure can get them a lot more work if they're friendly with you guys. And
that is correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they see it. We're their marketing arm, bringing in what they don't normally get.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, that's why we had a contractor's license at the beginning, and we will maintain it. But it was for that purpose, was when we couldn't get access to the labor. That was in the very, very early days.
Yeah. Wow. That's smart. So how many, I would have to imagine there's probably a select few framers that you guys are working with then, or are you guys welcome to take, are you welcoming as many framers that want to learn your process, or how does that work?
No, we're willing to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
We are absolutely willing to talk to anybody. But obviously what we want to do is to find the people that share the vision.
Right.
And that understand,
right.
Not to say, like, offsite construction, I don't believe is going to take 100% of the market in the United States over any given period of time. It'll take a fair share of it. And so it's trying to get those enlightened framers who can make that move and adjustment in their own heads to say, this is incremental to my existing business. I don't see it as cannibalizing me. I see it as something that I can add. And now I'm a better framing option for my customers by the fact that I can actually work with ENTEKRA as opposed to seeing as ENTEKRA as the enemy.
Yeah.
So we're open to any framers that see that vision and want to talk to us. And we are having those conversations every single day. Now, most of them, honestly, probably don't work out. But we don't need all of them to work out. We only need a few of them to work out.
Right.
We need 2.25%.
And you must remember, we require so little manpower on site that it doesn't take an awful lot. If you look at it, we're about to start a 270,000 square foot apartment building here very close to us. And we will have that building up in 13 weeks and we'll have 10 men on site to do it.
Jeez, shut up. That's insane.
So that's the other side of the equation.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. We don't need big volumes of labor to make this work.
Yeah, you don't need the biggest framing companies in the country or in the state to. Yeah.
What we need is the guy who's the second, third, fourth, maybe fifth guy who wants to become bigger.
Yeah.
And he says, I can work hand in hand with ENTEKRA. This benefits me.
So are you seeing a lot of those guys kind of shift their business strategy and from the stick framing and shifting more towards?
We're not even asking the stick framers to quit their stick framing operations. We're not saying that at all.
Right.
We're saying, guys, continue doing what you're doing. But if you've got a customer that wants to use an offsite solution, why wouldn't you offer it to them? Right?
Yeah.
You can continue on doing all your other work or doing whatever you want to do, but in this particular situation, some of the national home builders may say, something, I want to maybe use offsite construction on 10, 15, 20% of my work, but I'm going to use 80% of it is still going to be stick framing. Well, if you're the stick framer that can offer them both of it, then you actually gain more work.
So are you, I'd have to imagine more of your business is coming from the builders, right? But what percentage of your work is actually coming from framers going, hey, I've got this job and I want you guys to do it? Is that part of your process? Are you guys being brought in at that point where a framer's already won a job?
It's not a lot of it, but it has started. And we actually have a number of projects, so that's actually happening where the framer has the job and he's under pressure because he's got other work coming in as well. And now he's saying, how do I actually do all of this work that's available to me? So now he's actually coming to us and saying, listen, we have framers who we brought them in to say, listen, we'll give you our work. Here's the work we have coming down the road. Are you willing to do it? They quote it. We give them the work. Those ones tend to be the ones who are coming back to us saying, listen, you might be a good solution for this project that I currently have. So it's their work and they're coming back to us saying, yeah, this could actually help me out here. So
what does that engineering process look like when you're actually kind of being brought in at that point when everything's technically already done? How does that work from you guys from an engineering point?
It's the same regardless. I mean, we require a period of time up front to do all the engineering to make sure the process works as efficiently as possible. Typically that on a building is anything between 8 and 12 weeks, depending on the scale of the project. So long as we are 12 weeks back from going vertical on the site, then we're okay to go ahead and do it. If you come into us, 15 days before you're going on site, we're just going to say, sorry, not going to happen. You fire away and good luck. But if you can give us the time frame in advance, then, and it depends if it's if it's single family, and there's maybe 5 different house types, but they're only going to do 3 models. So we only have to get 3 ready in that period of time. we can technically shorten it a little bit. You know, we can get it maybe down to, let's say, 30 days and have it right and get it on site. But we like to get as much time, because the benefit of offsite construction is about the process. So the more time you have up front to look at the process, the more benefits you will derive on the building site.
The more efficient you're going to be in.
When you very the end there. And the reality is there's more than enough time on a construction project to engage with the offsite company. That's just another part of the process of getting the builders to realize, rather than waiting to 40 days out to go bid to a framer and then tell him he's got 15 days to be on site, to realize that if you want to get the benefits of offsite construction, if you know you're going on that site 6 or 7 months before you go, or even, some of these projects are in the pipeline for a year, 2 years, start engaging with your offsite company early on. You can still switch to stick framing, because the stick framers can basically start at any moment they want to.
Right.
So it doesn't hinder you. It's just you're creating options for yourself. So it's just trying to get them aware. And typically the difficulty only ever really arises on the first project with a new builder. Once they've been through it the first time, the second time they know exactly what to do.
Yeah,
from what to do, their engineers know what to do, the people on site know what to do, people internally in their offices know what to do. So it's really only the first time out where you have any sort of logistical problems from that perspective.
What is it from a cost standpoint for a contractor, for a framer working with you? What's the difference for them, either greater or less from a contract standpoint?
When are you asking from the framer's perspective or from the builder who were?
Well, yeah. So I guess the genesis of the question is, if the framer bids the job, right, and they bid it based on traditional stick framing, and then realize, hey, that you might be a better solution, and they come to you, is it something where they're going to be eating a little bit of money because it's the first time with you, or that process, or is it something where they're going to save a little bit of money?
Well, no, if you look at it all depends what your time value of money is. So if you look at the length of time that it takes, we base everything around 2,500 square foot single family 2-story home. That's what we call a unit. So if you take it that is taking a stick framer, anything that currently in the current market conditions, that can take anything from 15 to 19 days for him to frame. And we can typically get that same house through shear in 4 days. So now there's additional costs in there with the crane and so forth to go into that. Right. On an hourly or daily basis, he should make the same, if not more money using our system. But the problem is he's not on site as many days for his perspective. So if he's looking at a project where he controls both the lumber and the labor, and he can get 100% of that profit, the problem is they don't want to come to us because they're saying, well, I'm giving some of that to
the profit from the lumber.
Company. And they fail to look at the increase in the amount of work that they can actually do in a given year by using the system. They just look at it as an individual part element and say, based on this one house, I can make more money in this by just stick framing it myself.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. So in a macro world, it might cost them a little bit more, but on a larger scale, they're going to be able to do more work and make more money that way.
That is correct, with less risk.
Right.
That's the important, with less risk.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, that's a huge. I mean, we're the insurance guys, so that's right. A huge piece of it that they're eliminating. Yeah,
but it's hard for a lot of them to get their heads around that. They typically all have a negative view. They just don't want to give up anything. It's pretty much that maximum what we have, we hold.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
right.
It typically has to be driven by the builder, where the builder's coming to them saying, and that's why we spend so much time actually educating the builder, because it's all about cycle time, and that's where the money is. Like right. If you take it that it costs, if you're a builder, so that's why I was asking the question. You're looking at it from the perspective of the framer, or you're looking at the perspective of the builder. Really, the only person that matters in this equation is the builder, because remember, there's maybe too much deference given to the power of the framer in the market. Because when you think about it, when you go out, when you think of any building, any single family community that's being built, that's the builder's land, it's the builder's risk, it's the builder's loan, it's the builder's customer. Every piece of risk on that job is being ultimately taken by the builder.
Yeah.
The builder has the right to decide how the homes on his community are to be built, right? Not the framer, builder. You wouldn't like somebody coming into your home telling you what to do in your home. Right? Or I wouldn't want somebody coming into my business telling me how to run my business. Well, that community is the builder's business. And think about it. They've spent the money to market that community. They've gone to the banks, taken out the risk. They've put the road, the groundworks in, the sewerage in. They've dealt with the city. They've done all of that work. And the framer arrives up to put up a house. And so what we're saying to the builder is, given all that risk that you've taken, what you want to do now is minimize your costs and get that house built as fast as possible. Yeah. So if we're able to say to a builder, if you use our system, so you're going to end up with this at the end of the equation, you'll end up with the exact same house built, albeit it'll be to a higher quality, but the exact same house built in a shorter period of time. So you close more houses per year than you would normally. But this is the key, and this is the real key to all of this. Every single day on site is costing that builder money. Right? It's the cycle carrying cost every day. And that cost varies from location to location. Like, for example, in California, if you're in the Central Valley, the cost of per day out here may be as low as $250 a day, but it's still $250.
Yeah.
When you go to the ocean side of the Bay Area, the peninsula, the carrying costs in there can vary anything from $1,000 to $2,000 per day. It gets higher as you get towards the end of the building and there's more invested in it.
Right.
It can be running as high near the end of the $2,000 a day. So whether you take our view is that we can help the builder in total take approximately 30 days off the average house. Now that's a combination of two things. One, we said there's the direct framing cycle time reduction, which we say is probably going to be in the region of about 15 days. But because our system is so precision built, and because we're incorporating a lot of the additional work into the frame, and we have also sat down and worked out the clashes with the plumber, the electrician, the HVAC in advance, there's another 15 and direct scheduling with no lag time in it. There's another 15 days to be gained. So run property, you can take about 30 days off a 2,500 square foot single family home. Now, wow. You add whatever your cost per day is to that 30 days. That's the benefit. We don't go in to sell on the basis that we're cheaper than the stick framer. We go in to sell on the basis that our process will help the builder put more profit on his bottom line.
Yeah, time, cost, value.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So it's not about, and this is where the stick framers as well sort of lose the battle and lose the understanding. They think it's because if they come in $1,000 cheaper than us to frame a house, that somehow they've won the battle. Meantime, we're sitting having a discussion with the builder in the background saying, listen, how much is 30 days off your cycle time worth?
A lot more than $1,000, yeah.
That's what the real battle is.
Yeah.
It's not about the direct, and also there's all the other costs where we'll save them. Probably have 50% less dumpster pulls using our system. It'll be
I was going to say material efficiency and dumping. Yeah.
It'll be a safer site. It'll be a cleaner site. It'll be a tidier site. So his brand image goes up. All the lumber we're using is premium grade lumber. So when you walk your clients around the house, it looks better. It looks professional. So there's a whole lot of other aspects to offsite that are nothing to do with the first cost basis, which is where everybody sort of wants to go to. But that's not not where we fight our battle.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What is the labor force inside your factory look like?
Oh, this factory here, which is highly automated, currently has about 80 employees. That will be up when this factory is designed to produce 3,000 units per year on a single shift. So at 3,000 units, we'll have about 200 employees in this factory. Currently, we have about 80. So we're just starting to ramp up now. We will actually be probably at 50% of our capacity, sometimes just starting in the middle of July. That's where, so that we have a capacity of about 10 units per day. So we'll be doing 5 to 6 units per day out of this factory starting from the middle of July.
Wow. 5 to 6
when you say units, is that a specific average?
Yeah, it's 2,500. A unit to us is 2,500 square feet of building.
Got it.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
So but we can do about 7.5 million square feet.
Is any of your work being done by any of the high level, big single custom home builders that the super high?
We don't do custom. We don't in this market. We currently don't do custom homes because it
costs too much. Yeah,
it's too big a draw on our engineering resource to do the house and only do it once.
Yeah.
So it's not because we can't do it. We can do the most complicated buildings in the world.
But you want to replicate that, yeah.
Yeah. The problem is when you only do it once and then that drawing's gone. Whereas if you're doing stuff that's now you can also I'll shoot myself in the foot here and say, but you could also argue that's also the case with large multifamily buildings. And you're right, they don't get replicated typically again. But the benefit is instead of being a 10 or 12,000 or 15,000 square foot custom home, which is probably big as they get.
Right.
If you're doing 270,000 square foot building that never gets replicated again,
at least your factory's running for a little while on that one.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
So how much actual construction is being done? You said a lot of it's automated. How much actual construction is like work by hand is being done by the guys in your factory?
I mean, very little of it. It's primarily assembly. Bar, I would say the two most labor-intensive areas are stairs and what we call the specials area. So currently, where you have an aspect of a building that requires special detailing, we will do that, and we know the specials area. In that area, now all of the items that come to that area will still be pre-cut on CNC equipment, but there's a lot of detailing that requires skilled carpentry in that particular area.
Right.
Make sure everything goes together. And you must remember that we're working to millimeter tolerances. I mean, it's different. I mean, you take a wall panel line. One of our wall panel lines is designed to make walls up to 12 meters long, plus or minus a tolerance of 2 millimeters.
So 36 feet, you're working for 2 millimeter.
37.5 feet, we're working at 2 mil.
Wow,
that's incredible.
Yeah, some kind of precision, man.
But it's not incredible. I mean, it sounds incredible here, and I almost fall for it myself here, but it's not incredible. That's a European expectation.
Yeah, but I think it's when you've grown up with it on our end, and then I hear what you're telling me. Yeah, it's
here's how I'll relate it back. Right, we talked to a guy a few weeks ago, and I think his show might be coming out soon. But he was talking about how he's in the training portion. He trains a lot of different trades, and he was saying one of his frustrations, he's seeing that a lot of guys that are out on a job right now just because there's not a lot of that kind of schooling that's going on, but they don't know how to read a tape measure. So can you understand the difference? So you go from that where you know that there's somebody building a house in California that may not know how to read a tape measure to what you guys are doing where there's a millimeter difference at 37.5 feet. I mean, that's...
But here's the point. You've just nailed it. Here's the point. Why do people stick frame?
Yeah, you're right.
Seriously, you've just nailed it. And I'm going to give you the analogy, and I've used this a million times, but just assume either of the two of you, Mike or Brian, you leave your office this afternoon and you go down to BMW and you say, I want to buy myself a new 3 Series. And the dealer says, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 2 options. Option 1 is I get every single item and part shipped to your front yard. I get 5 guys to come out in a pickup truck with a set of drawings, a pneumatic tools and welding gear, and put it together for you, or I get it made for you in BMW's factory. Which are you taking? I want an answer. Which are you taking?
The one made in the factory, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great illustration.
Next question. Why?
Well, because it was done a million times over by the same people, and it's been replicated, and it was done to specs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I turned the interview the other way around.
That's awesome.
You guys have just answered everything that you need to answer about it. It's just the American market hasn't thought about it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at every single thing that's on your desk there at the moment. Is that microphone you're talking into? Where was that made?
Yeah, in a factory somewhere.
Yeah. The headphones that are in your head, where were they made?
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
That cup that's sitting on your desk, where was it made?
Yeah.
Right? You find any product that wasn't made in a factory, you don't want. I'll give you another analogy. So you go up to Apple today and you say, listen, I'm going to buy myself a new iPhone 11. And the guy says, I'll tell you what, 2 options. I get all the pieces sent to your house. I get a guy to come out with some soldering gear and we put it all together in your front room. or I'll get it made in Apple's factory, even though Apple's factory is in China, where are you going to take it from?
Yeah, let's take China.
The
well, the guy in the front room is probably going to take way longer than the factory out in China, even with the shipping.
Absolutely, that's exactly. Actually, that's a very good point. He's going to take way longer, even with the shipping.
Yeah. So, what do you say to the person that says, and this isn't me, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, right? And I kind of want to. I know what I'd love to hear what your answer is here, but what do you say to the guy who says, but yeah, Gerry, but there's something to be said about something that was made by hand and these hands put it together and now, it's a structure that's built and we're living in it.
Sorry, who's living in it?
Well, anyone. What do you say?
No, the point I'm saying that is, who's saying that?
Oh, so I see where you're going with this. Is that the end user doesn't give a shit?
No, you got it. You got it. Right? What does he? No, let's talk about the end user. What does he care about?
Yeah. Quality house. That's put together the right way.
Which is the builder. Yeah.
Built to precision.
Yeah.
Right. Built using CNC equipment. Where, for example, I can prove to you. I can actually pull out a file and prove to you how many nails were put in the wall at what time of the day they went in at.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're the insurance guy, if you're the ambulance chase insurance guy and you want to come after one of my customers, be very careful. We have the evidence.
Yeah.
You put into a wall, you better be bloody sure you know what you're looking for because we have the evidence.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about that piece of it. I mean, that's brilliant.
It's not crazy. This is just simply 2020. We're living in 2020. Every single product that is made this way. And every single manufacturer has this data for the equipment that they make. We're no different. It's just the fact here is that you're comparing a system for building a house which hasn't changed in 200 years against current modern day technology. And you think, and I don't mean you, but you think I'm weird? I look back at these guys and I'm scratching my head going, what the hell are they doing? I mean, I'll put another now. Let me put it to you another way. Right? So if you go out of your you came to work this morning, I assume in a car of some sort.
Truck, yeah.
Yeah, truck. Right.
Yeah.
Now, so transport yourself back 150 years and walk out of that office. What mode of transport would you be going home in?
The horse and carriage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow,
right?
You're wealthy.
Yeah.
You got the carriage.
Yeah.
You might be on the horse. You mightn't have the carriage. You're going back. You're going home in that horse and cart, that horse and buggy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then you go 150 years forward. You're in a truck that has more technology than put the first man on the moon. Right now, you go out to a U.S. building site and watch them stick frame a house. Now transport yourself back 150 years and what has changed?
Not a damn thing.
Well, I give them this, a hard hat and a skill saw. Right? Now, you transport yourself into my factory and it looks like we're in the 21st century. Because
as you should be.
Right. So what stick framers are effectively saying is that their system didn't need to change in 150 years. Everybody else's phones, I mean, there's my iPhone. I mean, there's my radio that I contact the guys out in the factory with. I'm talking to you on an Apple Mac, but no, that should not apply to the stick framing. They should not have to modernize. There's no advantage. The last 150 years has delivered no advantage that would benefit stick framers. Yet, those same stick framers will arrive to work in their truck that has the technology that put a man on the moon. They will pick up their iPhone and their iPad. They'll go home,
clock in and clock out on their phone.
They'll go home in the evening time, switch on their flat screen TV, and order their takeout dinner on Grubhub. So, and now ask them, do they want to give all of those up? Damn sure they don't. But they sure as hell don't want to move framing into the 21st century. How can that be?
No.
Yeah.
Think about this. See, when you look at it and you say this looks modern to you, and you look and say, oh, this is in use. I look at it the other way around and going, what the hell is going on? I mean, the most advanced nation in the world uses a process that's from the 18th century.
Yeah, archaic.
And I'm not making this up. I'm not rubbishing them, because the average guy who works on a building site works very hard. The guy who's controlling this is the boss man, the guy who makes the money. He's the guy who's deciding to stop the industry moving forward, not the guy on the building site. Because
Right.
the funny thing about it is, the guys on the building site, once they put up our system, and the guys are coming to us saying, I'd like to come work for you.
Yeah, this seems a lot easier. This is a lot nicer. Yeah.
That is correct.
Are you seeing what's the?
Sorry, I want to just one other point on this, because
Yeah, for sure.
I think this is the important part of this. If you look at U.S. construction productivity over the last 60 years, where do you think it has gone?
Hopefully, it's gotten better.
No, it's declined.
Really?
You can look it up. I'll actually send you the McKinsey report if you want. U.S. construction productivity has declined over the last 60 years. U.S. agriculture productivity has improved by 1,750%.
To what detriment? What's the reason in the?
Well, and U.S. manufacturing has increased by 1,400%, and the U.S. economy as a whole has increased by 400%. The reason being is all those other sectors of the economy have adapted and employed automation.
The technology. Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
The one industry that has not, ironically, which is the largest sector of the U.S. economy, which is construction, has not and is declining. So if you can imagine the impact you could have on the U.S. economy just by getting the U.S. construction industry to employ technology. The U.S. construction industry is the lowest level of digitization of any industry in the United States.
Oh, I know. We work with contractors on a daily basis, and it's hard to get them to e-sign something on DocuSign. I mean,
but to put that in context as well, if you read that McKinsey report, it actually shows you as well that although construction productivity in other countries around the world has not been stellar, it hasn't been great, it actually has been on the up. The United States is an outlier in that U.S. construction productivity has been declining.
Wow.
I mean, that should say everything you need to know about why the industry needs to change.
So you mentioned a while ago in terms of, you said a couple things, specifically that it wouldn't fully change and adapt to incorporate this new model of construction and this new process. But you had also mentioned that there were some contributing factors to that. What would you say? What's keeping that mindset from moving forward? Is it? You mentioned the guy. You've got maybe the owner of the framing company or whoever. But what is the contributing factor to keeping this modernization from happening?
That is the big.
Or is it just our stubbornness as Americans?
I don't want to say it's as Americans. I mean, it happens to be in America, but I don't think it's as Americans. I think it is actually specific to the industry because in general, I mean, the US is not like that. I mean, in general, the US embraces innovation, technology, and so on. So this is not an American thing as such. It is construction the world over is notoriously conservative and slow to move. It's just a heck of a lot more slow to move in this country than in other places. But that's not a reflection on US society as a whole. It's a complete outlier. But a lot of it, the reason being for it, is not based upon logic and rationale. It's based upon, in many ways, just simply what you have, you hold. And the large stick framing organizations in the United States have got strong positions in the marketplace. They do control, because it's on the critical path of building a house, framing is the most important element because nothing else can take place until it's completed, and everything that goes into that house either goes through it or touches off it or is connected to it. So the large framing companies basically have a very, very strong bargaining position. If the market moves to off-site construction, they lose that balance. They lose that power. It'll move more evenly towards the builder because the builder can bring companies like us in at very short notice. Not short notice, but we can put up buildings very quickly for them.
Right.
And they're not relying on that labor because it takes so little labor. At the moment, what you really have is the framers, the big framing companies, where they have their real strength is basically in their Rolodex of labor supply. I mean, I'm not going to use some of the terminology that's used to describe the way they operate, but I mean, they have control and access to large volumes of labor, and that's their power. Off-site construction diminishes that power dramatically.
Yeah.
They literally will not have that power anymore. And that's why builders in Europe, as part of the reason why builders in Europe started to move towards it. And it wasn't actually about wood framing they were moving, about stick framing they were moving from. It was about concrete block, because the concrete block guys are pretty much the same in Europe as the stick framers are here. They, again, need large volumes of labor and they control what goes on in the building site. And the builders didn't like that being foisted on them. And so when they saw systems like ours, they said, okay, I only need a few guys and I can get the offsite company to come out here, deliver this stuff on a given date at a given time and get that house up, and I know exactly how long it's going to take me. That put the power back to the builder.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of this is about. It's a battle for a power on the building side.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Are you seeing what's the education process like for the end user? Are you seeing that being a driving factor? Or, I mean, not that maybe you don't care because you're not selling the homes, but is that a driving factor for some of these builders as a selling point?
That's a very interesting point, especially in this COVID world that you just brought up. In Europe, we used to do a lot of push-pull at marketing. So we would actually advertise our system to the end user, even though we weren't necessarily supplying to the end user, because we wanted the end user to realize when they came in on the site that if they saw our name on the frame, and we trademarked the expression, the name on the frame, which we have actually currently now trademarked in the US as well, because we want the homeowner, potential homeowner coming into site to realize that if they see ENTEKRA as the name on the frame, that they're buying a different level of quality.
Yeah.
And we're marketing that to the builders. Now, what's actually happened is for the first 2.5 years or 2 years, we were plugging that all the time, but we really weren't getting any traction. In the last 4 months, all of a sudden that has changed.
Because everybody's shopping online and looking at all the specs rather than just walking through a home.
Actually, I think it's actually something else, believe it or not. I think what it is I think what's happened is that the buyers are now more concerned about health and safety in their homes than they've ever been. And so the ability to be able to outsell your competitor by, if you walk around one of our homes and you see the quality of the lumber and the tightness of the joints and the precision of the framing and the tidiness of the site, because there isn't really any dumpsters around, it creates a far better environment for you to sell your product vis-a-vis the builder who's down the street. So now we're actually producing for 3 of our customers who are large national home builders. We're producing marketing literature and videos that they can give to their salespeople to highlight the benefits of our system vis-a-vis the houses that are being stick framed as competing product in the same area. Now that has come as a request from the builders. It didn't actually come from us.
Yeah,
they're obviously seeing and hearing. They're hearing the feedback from the people and what they're being told, what the potential buyers are saying in terms of quality, and walking in and seeing green lumber or dirty lumber or moldy lumber in a house. You don't see that on ours. When you walk in, the tights are the joints are tight. The houses are fully sheared, which is another unusual thing in California. I mean, here we live in a seismic zone, and yet the homes are built with half the homes you drive around, you can see right through them because they don't completely put the OSB on the outside of the building. They put the minimal amount on possible to comply with the code. Yeah. And then you'll have the framer saying, oh, it complies with the code. But do you know what complies with the code is a euphemism for?
I can't wait.
You're waiting for this one? Built to the lowest legal permissible standard.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
Well, we don't build to the low legal permissible standard. In fact, everything we do is above the code. We're building to quality. That's our ethos, and that's what offsite is about. So what stick framers in many cases do is they want to take pieces out of the building, lower the quality of the materials in order to make more profit.
Yeah.
We want to make more profit by improving the process, making the process more efficient, using faster pieces of equipment, using more trained guys. We're not about lowering the quality of the materials in the building. We're about actually improving the process and making it more efficient, enabling everybody to make more money. It's a completely different philosophy.
Yeah, different mindset for sure. Yeah.
In that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you went to your doctor and your doctor said, I use the lowest legally permissible anesthetic. So you go to 2 doctors, and one says, well, I use the lowest legally permissible anesthetic, and the other guy goes, well, no, I'll use an anesthetic, and I guarantee you're not going to feel anything. Which one are you going to?
No, that's
you didn't answer me that one.
Yeah, we're going to the good one. Yep, we're buying the good house.
I'd say the good one says to you, listen, I'm going to charge you $20 more for that. You're going to quibble over the $20?
Except for the sadist.
Yep.
Yeah, well, there are those guys as well. Yeah. Personally, I'm not one of them.
Neither am I.
Yeah, no, that's very funny. Very cool. Well, through all the technical difficulties, I think we'll let you run and get on with your day. We appreciate your time. We want to let you plug your social media, your websites, your phone numbers, however the people get a hold of you.
You look up Gerard, Gerard McCaughey, McCaughey on LinkedIn, or ENTEKRA.com.
Perfect.
You'll get us if you put ENTEKRA into Facebook or you put ENTEKRA into Instagram. You'll get us there as well.
Does that stand for anything, or where did that name come up with?
Yes, it came up from a wet Monday. Sorry, believe it or not, that's it was one of those Amber Alerts going out.
Oh gosh.
It came up from a wet Monday in Los Angeles, of which there's very few. When I was trying to think of a name for the company, and I wanted to find something that wasn't already .com, and so I started thinking about what it is that we do. And reality is we're bringing engineering and technology and the rational use of materials and labor to the construction process. So you take the EN from engineering, the TEK from technology, and the RA from rational use, and you come up with ENTEKRA.
Nice.
Perfect.
Love it.
It works. Awesome. Well, Gerry, thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Gerry.
And managing through our little technical difficulty. We appreciate that as well.
Well, that just goes to prove as well that, you may have a little bit of difficulty with technology, but you can always work your way through it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we'll stay in touch for sure. We appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you, Gerry.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Yeah, bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.